everybody. How we doing? Sunnyvale Reject back in the house on this gloomy Monday morning. It's been raining off and on. But if you know anything about Florida, you know it's liable to change at any second and be the prettiest, sunniest, brightest beach day you've ever seen in your life. All right, let me shut my mouth and get into what we're going to take a look at today. Today we're going to take a look at the Sunnyvale Reject's top 10 books of all time. That's right. My top 10 books of all time. I know everybody's got their list. This is mine. And it was a lot of difficult choices, and it matters when you read what book. It really does. In the United States, we read Charles Dickens and, A Tale of Two Cities, Great Expectations, things like that way too soon. You can't understand and process those things when you're in middle school, for example. I think those should be read later in high school and early on in college so that you get the full effect and you can really understand and it resonates with you. And you know some things about government, for God's sakes, and society. All right, again, I'm shutting up. I can't wait to show you this list. And more importantly, I'm really excited to see what you guys think about what should have been on the list. Please like and subscribe and drop me a line in the comments. I'd love to hear anything you guys have to say about this. Okay, here we go. Without further delay. You know what? Before we get started, it's summertime, baby. 10 a.m. for me, it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I've been up so long. I've been reading Faulkner's Sanctuary. I've been reading Guardian by John Saul. I'm about to finish it. And The Curse of the Wish Eater since early this morning, so I've been busy. All right, let's go. Are you ready? Book 1. Fight Club. Who remembers Fight Club? I loved this book. It really exposed the darkness of the materialistic and shallow nature of consumer capitalist America, kind of in the same way that American Psycho did. And believe me, that vied for this position, but I liked Fight Club. I thought it was really inventive and fun. And I liked the movie. I thought it was cast perfectly. So here we got Fight Club, book 1, leading to the best book ever written, in my opinion. Book 2. Come on, now give it up. John Kennedy Toole, A Confederacy of Dunces. There were other books written about New Orleans. In fact, Faulkner wrote while living in New Orleans. But he did it justice in the same way that Raymond Chandler and John Fonte did L.A. His characters are quirky, and he himself, Ignatius J. Reilly, was a genius. John Kennedy Toole probably was too. He wrote his first novel when he was like 15, The Neon Bible. I think he's from New Orleans, but he killed himself in Mississippi, and this book won the Pulitzer posthumously. There's a wacky story. Investigate it, read it. It's really cool, and this is a wonderful book. If you read it, you'll laugh, you'll cry. It'll make your list. Confederacy of Dunces, John Kennedy Toole. Jazz by Toni Morrison. My God. You'll find out why I love this book so much on the very last page. Let me make sure about that. Let me make sure. Oh, yes. The very last line of the very last paragraph of the very last page, you will understand why I put this book on my list. That's all I'm going to say about it. She won the Nobel Prize, probably for her body of work. She wrote Beloved. She wrote Song of Solomon. The Bluest Eye, amazing writer, an incredible American talent. I loved jazz. It really inspired me. Have you read this? If you haven't, you should. It's an anti-war novel. It's also beautiful, beautiful, tragic, brooding, melancholic at times. My God. Listen to this. Listen. This is just one passage on page 57. Stay closer, Kareen. Don't go away. Closer, closer, Kareen, and watch out for the water coming over your face. I can't turn over on my stomach to swim, Kareen. I can only float, so please don't go so far away. Kareen, where are you? I can't find you, and the water was coming over your face. Don't sink, Kareen. Don't let the water come over your face. Come back, Kareen. You'll choke. You'll fill up like I'm filling up. You'll go down, Kareen. Watch out, please, watch out. Come back, Kareen. You're gone. You aren't even there. Just me alone in the river with water coming over my nose and mouth and eyes. Read it. It'll send chills up and down your spine. You will never forget it. You'll want your kids to read it. In fact, my kid's only 9, but putting together a little package of important books that he must read, because the way things are going, you have no idea what's going to happen, and important books get banned at important times. So I'm preparing him a little packet of books, and you better believe mine are in there too. I'm going to give them to him when he's like 16. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you ready for book 5? Ask the Dust, John Fonte. The dude I went to graduate school with told me I should read this, and that I reminded him a lot of Fonte. I think I know why now. Not because I can compare with his genius, but because I really know what my writing is about and my limitations. But I still break rules and take risks regardless. But his alter ego, Arturo Bandini, was really aware of his limitations in his current cast in life because of the way he was born into this world. This is a beautiful book, and again, early depictions of Los Angeles. It highly influenced Charles Bukowski, who was fed up, also abused, man, had a rough upbringing. But Charles Bukowski was fed up with the boring BS on the market. He couldn't find anything that really inspired him until he went to the Los Angeles Library and found Ask the Dust by John Fonte. And he considered him his god after that, and it really inspired his writing. And he gave props to Fonte most of his life. Look up Bukowski's videos on Fonte, and you'll hear some very disturbing stories, but he called him his god. In fact, he wrote the introduction to this book and got it put back in print, basically. Okay, enough. Speaking of LA, Raymond Chandler, Trouble is My Business. I read this by chance at a hotel while looking at the Northern Lights in Iceland. I found it on the shelf. It was a different version, but I read this and loved it. It's the closest thing I can compare to... Faulkner was grit lit too. He wrote a crime novel, maybe two. But I'm talking gritty, straightforward, wonderful simile, very obscure simile. Similes played out and overdone and cliche a lot of the times, but he makes it fresh and new each and every time. His body of work stands up with any genre of literature from any time period. He was the man, and I loved his novels, but this got me into his work, and I'm sure it'll get you into his novels too. But the first 4 books are early Chandler, and the last 4, stories. And the last 4 stories are classic Marlowe, his wonderful main character and protagonist and hard-boiled detective, Philip Marlowe. Yes, Raymond Chandler, Trouble is My Business. You'll love the novels, but I guarantee you you'll love this more. Okay, moving right along. You know, I couldn't leave my man off the list. It's William Faulkner. It's As I Lay Dying. For philosophical depth and the range of the character's emotions, setting, regional dialect. I mean, he stays true to the regional dialect, and when people read it, it's like reading a foreign language, but I can read it and hear it with crystal clarity. People talk about his stream of consciousness, but when he structures his sentence, he also uses inversion by rearranging the logical placement of the words, right? I love this book. It's like the Odyssey in its epic nature. They're trying to get the matriarch to her final resting place, which is way the hell out in the middle of nowhere, long away from where they are in Jefferson, I think, and they got to cross a river, and it just does not go well. And it's told in chapter perspectives from each character. I'm talking, this is just a great book. It's beautiful. Look, I'll just pick some place, and this is from Darl. Before us, the thick, dark current runs. It talks up to us in a murmur, becomes ceaseless and myriad, the yellow surface dimpled monstrously into fading swirls traveling along the surface for an instant, silent, impermanent, and profoundly significant, as though just beneath the surface something huge and alive waked for a moment of lazy alertness out of and into light slumber again. I guess he's talking about coming upon the river. Great book and a great entry into the Faulkner catalog. The Sound and the Fury was very, very close to taking this spot, but I think the stream of consciousness kind of throws people off, and this one's a little bit more matter of fact, a little bit more straightforward. A great entry into Faulkner's catalog, a wonderful book that will stand the test of time. A Tale of Two Cities, my man Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens. Donna Tartt said Charles Dickens was one of her favorite writers, and I loved this book. There's some great tension with Madame Defarge sewing, and people, when you ask them what it's about, they'll say, "Oh, it's about the French Revolution and about the kings and their squabble." It's also a tremendous love story with one of the most poignant, everlasting scenes in literary history at the end of this book. Man, I loved this book, and you will too. I've read it probably 3 times. This is a nice copy. I like this. I like that. Yeah. I remember one time a girl I had been dating for several years, like 3 years, and she got me into writing, but like a demon. I can't say her name. Yeah, she said, one time we got into a fight, right, and we broke up, and she said, "You're reading A Tale of Two Cities, right? Well, when you finish A Tale of Two Cities, we'll talk, and we'll talk about the book. So when you finish it, give me a call." And that was both a massive challenge, and it broke my heart because I was in love with her, and everything was very immediate. You know how it is to be away from the one you love, even when you desperately need that space. But I read it, and I took it to heart because I knew she was going to drill me about it, and she was always smarter than me, and she had more money than me. I came from a trailer park. But I tell you, once I started to read books, it opened up the world for me because you realize, early on that you can't fight everybody and that knowledge becomes your weapon, right? A Tale of Two Cities. My God, you'll love it. Whose list does this not make? I have to know. It's Crime and Punishment, y'all. Raskolnikov. And that's just his last name. They say all 3 parts of his name every single time they mention this dude, and this novel takes work like Faulkner. The moral, the message, oh my God, the gift of this book, it's basically, I can sum it up in one word, and you don't get it until the very last page, but it is so worth it. It really is, but it's difficult, and the reader is not given the easy way out or spoon-fed. You have to work for everything in this book, and I'm just going to say one thing about this book. That's it. Redemption. Remember I said that. Redemption. Read it. You'll love it. It's worth it. Now, here we are. In my opinion, the very best book ever written. And I'm sure you know it. If you read it, you probably love it. The movies were really great. It's The Count of Monte Cristo. Who the hell besides me had a copy this fat? This is over 1,000 pages. This is not the copy I read, but it's the copy I have on my shelf for some reason. And that's kind of what led me to do this video. I woke up and I was like, damn, that's what I've been reading my whole life. And then behind me, I've got, all my Fear Street, Point Horror, Shivers, Goosebumps, and stuff like that. And I was like, what a drastic change. Like, what happened in me, or that day, whatever, that caused me to stop reading these kind of books and start to read this? Was it that I just desperately needed to change? Did I miss out on reading this when I was a youth, and now I'm going back to it because I have a solid literary foundation? I really do. I don't know. I love them both, and now I'm going back to reading Faulkner, and who else? I'm going to read Faulkner. I'm going to read some Barry Hannah, But once again, Alexander Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo. I said redemption when I was talking about Crime and Punishment. This book is about redemption too, but about revenge. Edmond Dantes is a sailor. He's about to get his own ship when some folks that are jealous set him up, and he goes to prison for a crime he didn't commit, and meanwhile they're moving in on his girl and on his territory, and all hell's breaking loose, and he's pissed off. And it sucks bad enough to be pissed off and heartbroken. You can't eat, you can't sleep. But imagine being locked the hell up too. But he meets someone that tells him of a hidden hoard of gold and treasure, and he plots his revenge, and it's amazing. What else can I say? Guys, what do you think about my list? I hope you loved it. If you hate it, I can handle that too. Tell me about it and we'll talk. Listen, have a wonderful day. If you like soccer, the USA plays Uruguay today in the Copa America. Jesus Christ himself basically has to come down and help the USA to make it to the next stage, but let's say some prayers. I love you guys. Have a wonderful day.